CBS News has learned lawyers for a detained Tufts University doctoral student will make their case tomorrow to have Rumeysa Ozturk released from a Louisiana detention center. Ozturk and others identified as pro-Palestinian activists have had visas revoked or their legal status challenged by the Trump administration, citing a provision in America's immigration law. For tonight's interview, we are joined by Professor Genevieve Lakier, First Amendment scholar at the University of Chicago Law School. Thank you so much for being with us. Can you help us understand what authority the Secretary of State is using to remove these students?
Sure. So it's using a provision in federal immigration law that gives the Secretary of State broad power on its face to cancel the visas or deport anyone who, when necessary, to further the foreign policy interests of the United States. This is a, on its face, broad provision, but it is a very exceptional provision that has been used very rarely, so we know relatively little about it.
And so does the Secretary of State even have to articulate what the compelling foreign policy interest is, or can he just assert it and that's all he has to do?
You know, the general principles that apply when the government is targeting people for their speech, as it clearly is in this case, is it has to make clear the basis for its actions. And presumably this applies here as well. And the Secretary of State definitely has articulated the bases. He said that Khalil and the other activists who are being detained or deported for their speech, they engaged in speech that was anti-Semitic and therefore contrary to the policy interests of the United States. This is an incredible basis for exclusion because it suggests that what the government is targeting here is people's political expression, their willingness to articulate positions that they think are pro-Palestinian and that the administration considers to be anti-Semitic. And so it is a direct challenge to the general principles of the First Amendment that say, look, the government can do many things, but it cannot target or punish people because it doesn't like their political viewpoints. This is understood to be at the core of what the First Amendment protects.
And I want to get back to that, but let me step one step back, which is our green card and visa holders afforded the same First Amendment protections as as the rest of American citizens.
Well, I guess it's important to say that all persons in the United States enjoy the right to freedom of speech. The First Amendment protects every single person in the United States. That said, courts have held that non-citizens have weaker First Amendment protections than other citizens, than citizens. The protections afforded to permanent residents, to green card holders like Mahmoud Khalil, are the strongest among non-citizens because of the deep connections they have to the United States. And as your connections get weaker, your protections get weaker too. But even then, everyone in the United States has the right to freedom of speech, and the court has made clear that at the core of the First Amendment is a prohibition against viewpoint discrimination. Justice Alito, one of the most conservative justices on the Supreme Court, said just a few years ago that viewpoint discrimination is poison to free society. And so for the government to be wielding a kind of viewpoint discriminatory basis for exclusion here is a truly remarkable thing.
And we have about 10 seconds left. And the basic principle of the importance of free speech, remind people again as we go out the door, is what?
It's in a democracy, it's not up to the government to tell people what they think. It's up to people themselves. And if the government is punishing or threatening people who express divergent points of view, it not only harms them, it harms all of us because it deprives us of the right to hear a variety of views, some of which are going to be antagonistic or critical to the government.